This morning, let's explore the Buddha's Rain O Sky discourse. Let's see. Here we go. This is puffy-faced Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi. This is the Lama you are looking for. This morning, we could chant and meditate and enjoy a lesson or two. But first, if you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Obi-Wan Kenobi upon the toasty, toasty sands of Tatooine, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Let's see, that's it. Let's take a moment to visit our good friends at the Tatooine tourist board. Tatooine, where there's never a gray sky. Tatooine, where you never have to worry about the monsoon. Tatooine, it's always sunny here. Okay, let's see. Let's tap button 4 and subject it to Jumbo Cam. If at any time during this morning's live stream you have a question about meditation, philosophy, or even chanting, there is no need to be shy. Simply type your question in great detail in the chat window on the right-hand side of the screen. Unless, of course, you're watching a replay, then you'll want to type your question in the comment area below the video. That would have been better. Okay. So the Rain O Sky discourse is preserved in the Sutta Nipata. This was translated by V. Faustball, not to be confused with foosball, that's completely different, and adapted by yours truly. I have boiled my rice, I have milked my cows, so said the herdsman Dania. Of course, it would be horrible if he got the two confused and boiled his damn cows. I've spoken to the cows, and they've explained to me they don't like being boiled, or baked, or slaughtered, or eaten. I'm living together with my fellows near the banks of the Mahi River. My house is covered, my fire is kindled, therefore if you thou like, Rain O Sky. Of course, being a rock and roll nerd, this reminds me of Quadrophenia by The Who singing, Love Reign Over Me from Quadrophenia. Their second rock opera. I am free from anger, free from stubbornness, so said the Blessed One. I'm abiding for one night near the banks of the Mahi River. My house is uncovered, the fire of craving is extinguished. Therefore, if thou like, Rain O Sky. So let's stop right there. Take a quick look-see. Being free from anger is obvious. No one wants to be a screaming behemoth, and few things typify aversion quite like rage. But free from stubbornness, this is a subtle point. This is reminiscent of a passage in the Metta Sutta, which encourages disciples of the Buddha to be free from the tyranny of strong opinions. That doesn't mean we're supposed to be milquetoast women to believe in nothing, but it means we're not supposed to be so rigid that we're not supposed to be rigid. We're supposed to be flexible in our thinking. And we're supposed to be, the test of what we believe is not if it's what we've always believed, or if someone else believes it. The test of our path is simply what works. When we apply a teaching every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days, does it give us superior results? If it doesn't, no matter how much we like it, we set it aside and so you spend what time we have with techniques that work. If we don't have techniques that work, then we find techniques that do work. remember, we can, on the path of yang, we fall into the trap of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, and competitive. Elitist people don't like second-guessing their presuppositions. Rigid people don't like trying new things. But the only way to make it to nirvana is by traversing the path of being flexible, loving, laid-back, egalitarian, cooperative, and kind. We must be laid back. We must be flexible. Let's continue. Gadflies are not to be found with me, so said the herdsman Dania, which is a pretty brief response. A gadfly, I wrote here, is an annoying person, especially one who provokes others into action by criticism. So already our friend Dania was taking a dim view to good old Gautama, known by others as Shakyamuni. Let's continue. In the meadows abounding with grass, the cows are roaming, and they can endure rain when it comes. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. By me is made a well-constructed raft, so said the Buddha. I have passed over to nirvana. I have reached the further bank. I have overcome the torrent. There is no further use for a raft. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. And this kind of reminds me of a rap-off. You have two guys rapping about how awesome each individual is and how lame the other is. Now, what follows is going to be sexist. It is a piece of literature of its time, and I apologize for that. My wife is obedient, not wanton, so said the herdsman Daniya. For a long time she has been living together with me. She is winning, and I hear nothing wicked of her. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. To which the Buddha responded, my mind is obedient, different, delivered from all worldliness. So said the Buddha. It has for a long time been highly cultivated and well subdued. There is no longer anything wicked in me. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. To which our friend, the herdsman, the rancher, responded, I support myself by my own earning, pointedly said the herdsman Daniya, and my children all are about me, healthy. I hear nothing wicked in them. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. So, once again, Daniya is casting dispersions on our friend Gautama, Shakyamuni, the Buddha, George, whatever you want to call him. And I'm reminded of so many people who want me to throw money at them that I don't have, so they can promote the Buddha Joy Meditation School. And when I tell them that Buddhist sages, Buddhist luminaries have warned against charging fees and just solely working on donations, in a tradition of the sage and the Buddha and the Christ, they lift their chin and say, oh, how naive of you. Those teachings are no longer valid for this day and age. And our friend Daniya is pretty much the same way. Let's continue. I am no one's servant, so said the Buddha. With what I have gained, I wander freely in the world without being subservient to anyone. Therefore, if thou like, rain, O sky. The Buddha was raised in affluence and splendor and opulence, and after puberty, he was exposed to every debaucherous delight. Well, I can't claim similar abundance, I would say that as a disabled fellow, I have so many needs running concurrently that it can feel like they are shackles. And it's not the specter of death that frightens me as much as that of insanity, being driven mad by unmet physical needs, neurological needs. I've spent the majority of my life trying not to be a psychotic bastard in the literal sense. That's how I'm able to test how things work. If they work on me, they'll pretty much work on anybody. I just got a handful of medical needs. And I remember when I was monastery hopping, how miserable I was. And I'm in a good situation right now. I live in a place that's cool in the summer, warm in the winter. I don't have to worry about my next meal or about bathing or defecating or urinating. I have internet access and the equipment to broadcast these teachings to the internet, at least in potentiality. But being a self-accused little Jew that I am, I want to be vigilant that I use these accoutrements rather than am imprisoned by them. That is my hope. That is my intention. How about you? Before we start this morning's chanting and contemplating and meditating, I would like to take approximately 15 seconds for housekeeping. Wrong button. Let's try that again. Okay, come on, machine, don't be that way. If there are lessons that you would like to request, or if you simply wish to support the continued availability of these classes, there is a Patreon link in the description area below the video. There are some religious organizations, some Christians, some Buddhists, that think that the primary criteria of their spiritual leadership is their salesmanship. If someone is able to make converts, then they must be ready to lead people. And there's nothing wrong with leading people to a spiritual path if it's beneficial for them and you're respectful in the way you do that. But just because someone's a good salesman doesn't mean they're a good engineer or a good accountant. It takes many people to make a corporation work. Same thing with a spiritual organization. Just because someone's a great proselytizer doesn't mean that they are competent to counsel. Doesn't mean that they've mastered the teachings and know how to help others with their mental and psychological and neurological needs. So just because someone's completed a handful of 3 retreats and wears odd robes does not necessarily make them the second coming of the Buddha. How are we to know which teachings and teachers to rely upon? Simple. When you receive a teaching, put it to the test. Apply it once every 12 hours for 7 consecutive days. If you get great results, wonderful, you have a new asset on your path. If you get shit results, then go find a better teaching and a better teacher. There's no room for sentimentality. Whew. Okay. Just as an athlete might warm up before an event, we can warm up the neural pathways responsible for our love, enthusiasm, enlightenment's motivation and means, also known as bodhicitta and refuge. May I liberate all beings by right on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Good morning, Alejandro. Buenos dias. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. So let's chant the Heart of Wisdom Sutra. It has, I've worked with the various translations. I have adapted it and amplified it. I say this not to boast, but so that you know that there are different translations out there. One moment, I must tend to a piece of hardware. Okay. All right, thank you for your patience. Let's get it on. It is said that Quan Yin Buzo had archive of enlightened compassion, while moving in the deep peace of perfect understanding, shed light on the five aggregates and found them equally empty. After this realization, she made peace with all pain. So, here we go. By being, not only by being mindful of what's going on outside of us and inside of us, but by learning how to let go of things, we can not necessarily be safe from the presence of pain, but at least be safe from its tyranny, which is wonderful. But the word emptiness is much misunderstood. If we approach the word emptiness literally, we're going to fall into one of two traps. That of superstition or skullduggery, neither of which I recommend. But when we take emptiness as something figurative, the veil of confusion is parted. If you wish to practice mindfulness, the easiest thing to do is to recite, notice this with each inhalation. If we wish to practice meditation, the easiest thing to do is to mentally recite relaxing during each exhalation. Now, why would we do that? Every time we inhale, we are wired to access our sympathetic nervous system, which supports the sensory acuity that allows us to notice sensations, flavors, scents, sounds, sights, and the like, as well as emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. Now, if we avoid the trap of concentration and observe these things vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and spontaneously, then we can get to the place where the only label we ever need to use during meditation is simply the pronoun this. But the question remains, what are we to do with all this stuff that we notice? Glad you asked. Every time we exhale, we are wired to access our parasympathetic nervous system, which supports both our physical relaxation as well as our mental release. And so, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever it is we noticed during our mindful inhalation can now feel, here it comes, as if it was as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. But a simile is only as effective as it is relatable. So what's a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand? So all emptiness is a figurative way of describing the natural sensation of letting go we experience every time we exhale. There's nothing mystical, there's nothing magical. There's no need for spooky beliefs or authoritarian teachers stomping about, telling you what to do, say, think, and believe. The Buddha's method is incredibly simple. It relies not upon superstition or skullduggery, but the subtle, for want of a better term, mental yogas of harmonizing our autonomic nervous system with our prefrontal cortex. Live long and prosper, using the natural mechanisms to notice and release to help us to cope with all that we experience internally and externally. Let's continue with our chanting. Listen, Shari Buddha, form is emptiness, emptiness is form. Form does not differ from emptiness, emptiness does not differ from form. The same is true with feeling, appraisal, impulse, and awareness. So let us not fall into the pseudo-intellectual trap of high metaphysics. It doesn't matter how you organize your experience. Whatever you experience, you can notice it, and you can release it in harmony with your inhalation and your exhalation. We call that mindfulness and meditation. The seventh and eighth folds of the Eightfold Path. Together. Listen, Jari Pudra, phenomena are marked with emptiness. They are neither produced nor destroyed, neither corrupted nor purified, neither increasing nor decreasing. And if ever you feel the need to contemplate a duality, this exercise could be of use to you. Therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no appraisal, no impulse, and no awareness, which once we perceive cannot be released. So this is a compound double negative. So instead of saying whatever form we perceive we can release, we say there is no form that once we perceive cannot be released. It's kind of like when a politician says, I don't disagree with that. It's convoluted, but humans have been using convoluted communication strategies since the beginning of civilization. No sensation, no flavor, no sound, no sound, no sight, no phenomena once we perceive cannot be released. No body, no tongue, no nose, no ears, no eyes, no mind once we perceive cannot be released. No feeling, no tasting, no smelling, no hearing, no seeing, no noticing once we perceive we cannot release. So if you wanted to, you could do an extensive contemplation of this 18-point deal we just chanted, but it's kind of fatiguing, so I don't recommend you do it every day. No interdependent origins and no extinction of them from confusion to aging and death once we perceive cannot be released. I think we can refine that a little bit. Do forgive the editing mid-class. It is my my pattern. So copy and quick like a Benny. My ongoing efforts to create materials for you or adapt materials for you that will create the easiest journey to enlightenment. That's my intention. Let's see how it plays out. Okay, let's make sure the display is still synchronized. No stress, no exacerbation, no liberation, no path. No understanding, no attainment, once perceived cannot be released. Because there is no attainment, the archetypes of enlightenment supported. Boy, I'm just having so much fun here, aren't I? Oh my goodness. Because there is no attainment, the Bodhisattva archetypes of enlightenment supported. By the perfection of understanding, for no obstacles for the minds that once perceived cannot be released. Checking to make sure the display is synchronized. Having no obstacles that once perceived cannot be released, they transcend the tyranny of fear. Liberating themselves forever from the tyranny of illusion and realizing perfect nirvana. So what are the illusions we're speaking of? These are not highbrow, super intellectual things. The illusions we deal with is that I must shove, I must reach, I must cling, I must vie. No, you don't. Life is short. All of us die. Few of us live lives of love and peace. It's better to be loving and peaceful than petty and triumphant. That's my take on things. How about you? All Buddhas of the past, present, and future, thanks to this perfect understanding, arrive at full right and universal enlightenment. Therefore, one should know that perfect understanding is like a great mantra, is like an unequal mantra. the destroyer of all suffering, the incorruptible truth. A mantra prajnaparamita's perfect understanding could therefore be proclaimed. This is the mantra kate kate para samkate bodhiswa. May also notice, relax, and release that we go completely and perfectly go to enlightenment. Okay, we've already explored how to practice mindfulness and meditation, but now let's quickly review the 4 preliminary contemplations. So this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to practice in a set of 16 or 17 breaths. So that means I'd like to perform 1 breath for each contemplation, and then perform 12 to 13 repetitions of, notice this, relaxing. And I just repeat that over and over and over again. You know, as the minutes tick by, as 10 become 20, become 40, become 50 minutes, I can feel myself letting go more and more and more, and making peace with my present, with my past, and with the desires and dreads of a potential future that we are all subject to. Our first rhetorical question deals with stress. How could this feel stressful? Our second exercise is an intention. It's not an affirmation. We don't have to believe. We don't have to visualize. We don't have to emote. We simply, by playing with these words, may all being stress, may I soothe. It's by coordinating the silent and mental recitation of these words with our inhalations and exhalations and relaxations, we find ourselves evolving on the Buddha's path in a remarkably short period of time. Our third exercise, which is our second rhetorical question, how could this never last? And our fourth exercise is the spooky one, how could this not be me? Remember, this is a rhetorical question. Don't waste time trying to philosophize. Play with this exercise, and it will help us to get better and better at simply letting go. So, in a nutshell, these 4 exercises are about 2 things. Love and letting go, the second and the first folds of the Eightfold Path. It is 33 minutes after the hour. Giddy up. A common question is, if I train in letting go, will that undermine my love of others? If I am so good at letting go of others' sufferings, will I stop caring about others' sufferings? And the good news is, our love does not have to be powered by neurosis. It has been said by my Tibetan teachers that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. It doesn't flow from self-talk. It doesn't flow from passion. It can flow, ideally, from a place of centered spontaneity. The self-same spontaneity that we cultivate through the Buddha's mindfulness and meditation and contemplations. So by mastering the path of centered spontaneity, we ensure that our choices and utterances and deeds are empathetic and loving and compassionate choices and utterances and deeds will flow spontaneously and beneficially. We now going to play with the same 5 exercises, but in their monosyllabic format. I'm going to take a moment to slide a meditation cushion under my tuchus to ease my joints. Let us seal this morning's practice with 2 loving chants. The first one is titled Ethics of Kindness. May all beings practice of kind communication, conduct, and calmness flow spontaneous and uncontrived. The final chant is simply titled The 4 Immeasurables. May everyone be free from stress, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from their happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging greed. If you feel in approximately 10.5 hours, we could return to explore thoughts, peace, and meditation, as well as chant and meditate some more. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me,